Welcome to another episode of Connecting Women Who Break Barriers. Today I have the amazing Sarah with me, all the way from Georgia. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So good to see you and connect with you again. How's
Oh,
life been of late?
it's been busy. It's been a while since we've connected. I've had a baby since then. Right?
Nice. Congratulations.
The last time we connected, you did a Reiki session on me.
Yeah.
And this is really cool. I want to share that I hadn't told anyone I was pregnant yet. I think I had just found out. I was maybe like 6 weeks along. And then you told me afterwards, you're like, I felt so nauseated the whole time. And like, you need to eat root veggies and stuff. Like, I don't know what it was. And then I was like, by the way, I am pregnant. And
I love
nobody had, so
it.
you're one of the first people who knew. So I thought that was really cool because I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, how do you do Reiki from a distance? But your energy was on spot. So that was really cool. I think that's the last time we really connected live. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really great experience, right? Because again, you kind of don't realize how powerful these tools are, and connecting virtually is just as powerful. So,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing, and I love that. And again, congratulations on your little one, but not so
Yeah.
little anymore.
No, it's been a while.
Yeah. How is the whole family going since having, is it your fourth or fifth
My
one now?
fifth
Your
baby.
fifth?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been busy. It's been good though. Everybody loves baby. All the siblings are good with him and helpful.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's a
Nice.
wild time in our home.
Yeah, but I love it. Look, if I could have a few kids, I definitely would. So I'm sure it's fun. Alrighty, so let's get into this conversation. There's a few things that I know Sarah's really passionate about, but I'll get her to share her story in a moment. Sarah and I connected on a business coaching program together, and it was a bit of a wild ride, but it was actually really special because for me, definitely, I knew that I grew a lot during that program together. And as Sarah said, we don't talk on a daily basis, but when we do connect, it's always really like, old friends meeting again. So it's been nice to stay connected this whole time. And during that program, I know it was like, for me, it was a big change in my life at that time. So it was nice to have that community, while doing the program and connecting, and now still staying connected post that program. So you never know where you're going to meet anyone and how you're going to meet people, but that's what I love about this online platform where, we haven't met in person yet, but I'm sure one day when we will, it will be
Yes.
fun.
One day someday.
How have things been for you since we initially connected, and where are you at these days, Sarah?
Wow. So I went through a big life change during that program too. I think it was like a 3-month program or something. Um,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
course we took, and we created these businesses that I had no idea what I was going to do when I signed up for that program, and ended up starting a coaching business. And before I started the coaching business, my family moved from Hawaii to Georgia. So we moved across the ocean, across the country, and started a new life. And then I launched my coaching business like a month later while I'm in the course with you. So it was a big transition in our lives, but really timely. Um, I don't know. Okay, so where I'm at now, a few years later, is I have been doing one-on-one coaching, and I come from a background of doing therapy, mental health therapy, and so I was kind of seeing therapy clients as well as building my coaching business on the side. And then last year, I stopped seeing all therapy clients, and it's only coaching clients now. And then just this month, I launched a group coaching program for the first time. So I'm still seeing one-on-one clients, but I now have a group of women, and it's really exciting to kind of have this new something new in the business, and something I get to like plan and coordinate and put creative energy into. Yeah.
Love it. So, I just want to touch on a point that you said there, really about therapy, because it is an area that there are some misconceptions, and people feel like if I'm going to therapy, something might be wrong with me. And can we just break that apart a little bit? Because I don't necessarily agree with that narrative. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there are a lot of different perspectives on therapy, and I think definitely there's a lot of stigma around it from older generations. But the newer ones, I would say Gen Z, they're like, they think it's cool. Everybody's like, oh, therapy, let's wear therapy t-shirts. And they're just posting on social media like, oh, and therapy, blah, 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 like it's normal. But I think for some of us that grew up in a different generation, there's still a lot of shame around it. It's it's really vulnerable and scary at times. And I think some people have tried therapy and they didn't have a good experience, and so now they have a bad taste in their mouth about it, right? But
Yeah.
my advice to everyone is that if you've tried therapy and it didn't work, then that means the therapist wasn't right for you. It's not that therapy wasn't right for you. So it's like dating. You have to go and shop around and find someone who fits you, because everybody has different approaches on how they do it. Everyone has different personalities, right? Communication styles. Um, and really, you have to connect and feel safe and feel seen and understood by your therapist in order for them to help you. It doesn't matter how much knowledge they have. And so if you don't feel comfortable with them, you're not going to benefit from it. So go find someone else that you feel comfortable with, right?
Really relevant, right? Just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean it failed. And I think that's something that, as a coach myself, there are elements of therapy that we do through any coaching program because we want to get to the root cause of whatever it is that's causing you suffering or not helping you, be the best version of yourself that you can. But just because you've had a bad experience doesn't mean you give up. That's, a key takeaway from me, Sarah, with what you've just shared is please don't give up. We're all different. Sarah's way of coaching versus mine will naturally be different because my life experiences and the journey that I've been on is naturally different. And I may resonate versus Sarah and vice versa. So don't give up on yourself is a key takeaway from me
Yeah.
for that. And then, based on that, you said that you have pivoted and you're doing more so group coaching now. What led you to that?
Um, I have had this idea to do a group for a couple of years now. I remember back shortly after I created my coaching business, I had drafted ideas for a group and I never took the steps to follow through with it. I think there was some subconscious fears holding me back from getting it together and actually creating it. And what helped me to actually take that leap now is I started working with a coach. She is a business coach and life coach, and that her guidance and accountability is what helped me to follow through and actually do this. And so, yes, like even as a coach, the work is never done. Even as a therapist, as a coach, or wherever you're at, like we're all growing, we're all learning, and we all need that accountability and that outside perspective. And it's interesting because so many things she teaches in our mastermind, I'm like, yes, I already know that. Yes, oh, I actually just did that exercise with my own group. Like I know these things, but it's different when it's coming from an outside perspective and someone can show you your blind spots and like and and really force you to face those things that you have been avoiding. You know what I mean? So it's very helpful. But the whole thing about starting a group was that I wanted to bring women together, which is what you're doing with this podcast, right? Connecting women.
Yeah.
Um, because it's a different kind of learning when you're in a group setting. When you're one on one, it's great. We can dig deep into what you want to work on or not. But it also can be easier to hide from things when you're in a one on one. Whereas in a group, when one person is willing to just be vulnerable and go deep, they really set the tone for everyone else. And you learn from watching other people. You learn from them, like someone else that could have made a whole bunch of excuses and they're doing the thing. And you're over here making excuses still. And you're like, but she's not making excuses, right? Like, so that example of watching other women in this growth journey, aside from just the connection and support, because I think you can attest to this as an entrepreneur when you're doing this personal development and you're changing and you're letting go of this past identity, but you're not quite sure where you are at yet. It can be lonely. It can be a lonely journey as you're shedding different beliefs about yourself and, turning into a new person. And so to be surrounded by other women who are on a similar journey, who are taking the time and energy and money to invest in themselves and grow and do the hard work. It's, it's just really comforting to have that support.
Yeah, and I love that because again, we're breaking barriers, right? When we're trying to do it on our own, it feels a little bit hard and it's easy to just drop it and think, I've got other things going on. I'm really going to focus on that right now. Whereas when you're in a group and if you're going to a training session with someone, you know that you've got to front up because the other person's relying on you. Same as in group coaching, I imagine for your clients would be like, oh, she's coming and doing the work and I'm coming there and I've got nothing. And you don't necessarily feel so good about yourself, but it's like you've invested the time and money. So having a group around you and having women that are cheering you on and there to have your back, I feel makes a big difference. And hence, as you said, the reason for this podcast and for me to connect you with people like Sarah is so that you've got a lot of people at your fingertips that you can reach out to, because other than a coach, Sarah's actually an amazing musician, and I will be sharing some of her music in the podcast with you and drop her links in the bio in the show notes. But what's the one thing that you do for yourself, Sarah, when you're not coaching, and how do you navigate, I guess, life? Being a mum of five, I'm sure, is not a small thing to be managing.
It's not. What do I do for myself? So, well, music is a big part of my passion, and there's a common theme though in all the things that I love. Like when I'm writing songs and I'm recording music, the thing behind that is I want to give people hope. I've decided this many years ago when I used to gig um, with a band and we're in bars and people are like drunk and not paying attention. I'd always say a prayer before I performed that like that spirit or God or like love would come through in my music and it would uplift someone. And I've had people come and talk to me, after they'd be like, wow, that song really meant something to me. And like, I always want to share hope with people. And that's the same thing with coaching. Like, I want people to feel love. I want people to feel seen. I want them to feel hope that things can get better. And so music is my passion I do for myself. And it connects kind of with, my passion for coaching and helping people. And I'm recently getting into speaking as well. And with speaking, I am combining the music. So I have some songs that I've written, original music, and I will share like a story that's uplifting or motivational, and then I'll play a song that's related to the story throughout my keynote. And so that's another way I'm trying to combine all the passions I have together. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And what about the family life? How do you navigate that? You might be in the middle of recording a song, right? And one of your kids come in. So you don't want to miss out on all of those things too. But how do you keep a balance or
So
somewhat of
my
a balance?
Yeah, balance is an interesting word. One
Yeah.
thing that I love about being an entrepreneur is that it has allowed me some more time freedom. So I really don't work as many hours as I would have if I were out at a 9 to 5. So I'm at home, I'm
Mhm.
homeschooling my kids, and then on my husband's days off or in the evenings, I'm meeting with clients. I'm recording this podcast with you. I'm able to do all that. Like, just before this, we're dyeing Easter eggs, and then I come upstairs and I record a podcast, right? So it's
Nice.
really cool to have that. And another thing I've had to learn to work through is letting go of mom guilt and realizing like this is benefiting my family because every time I'm working on my own personal development and I'm going after the things that make me happy, I'm a better mom, I'm a better person, and I'm more present with my kids and I'm learning skills to help me overcome all of like the trauma and triggers and things that were holding me back, and that's only going to benefit my kids, right? And so keeping that mindset as sometimes we have to take time away from our kids, but in the long run, is it really going to benefit them? And I really feel it does. I have a really supportive husband that really helps. That I'm a part of this mastermind, and I've gone to a retreat or conference, and he just handles all the kids and supports me doing this thing because we both try to believe in each other and what we're trying to do, and we have the long term vision, even though it feels really far away of the life we could build for our family. Yeah.
And I love that because you know what? Having someone who believes in you is important, but also knowing that what you're doing for yourself is going to benefit the people around you is key to not feeling mum guilt, or key to not feeling selfish per se, when you're doing the things that you're doing. Because, as you said, you were preparing for Easter just before recording this podcast. And I love that because um, there are going to be bits and pieces that we want to do. And it's just a matter of saying, well, how can I blend that as part of my life and make it a part of my life? Because all of these things are, important, and they also bring me happiness. So, on that note, just, as a speaker, as you said, you go to retreats and you have invested time to do things that, make you happy. When it's not been going to plan, when things haven't been so smooth and steady, what's the one thing that's kept you going?
I love that question because so much of my life is not smooth or going according to plan. um, I think trust, trust in a bigger plan that you don't know. That's a big thing that keeps me going. Is like, okay, that belief, if it didn't work out, it wasn't meant for me, right? And just trusting that
Mm-hmm.
this is not the end of my story, okay? And maybe this is leading me to pivot in a way that I need to. Or maybe it actually is working out and I need to just stop freaking out about it, right? And let go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I could get vulnerable and share a recent experience actually with my group
Yeah,
coaching.
of course.
So, this was my first time launching a group, and I'm really good at doing the one on one launches. I get people on a consultation call, I talk with them, and maybe like two-thirds of people who get on a consultation call with me end up signing as my one on one clients. And I'm like, okay, I got that process down. The group thing was really different, and in a sense of how do I get people to sign up for this program. So I had to do a lot of things out of my comfort zone and the vulnerability, which is why it took me years to get to this point to actually launch. There's always that worry of what if no one signs up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then worst case scenario is what if just one person signs up? Then you have to have a
Mm-hmm.
group, but then you don't have a group if you
Yeah.
just have one person, right? And so for
Yeah.
a while, I only had one person signed up, and I was just feeling kind of like stuck and just like, what do I do and how do I share this? And I had a coaching call. And so the accountability was huge. People knew I was launching, like, I'm going to do this. If I say I'm going to do
Mm-hmm.
this and I put it out there, like, accountability is a big piece for me. And what my own coach, Brooke Hemingway is her name, and she's really amazing. She's just super aligned. Um, and she also will like push you. And I like that about her. Because that's what I need is that is that nudge
Yeah.
out of my comfort zone. But she just did a brief visualization for me. And in that session, I visualized being in that group and seeing these women who I was helping on a Zoom call. And like, I got teary eyed and my whole energy shifted. And I felt like, love and spirit enter me and alignment. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be helping these women. Like, God, universe, source, whatever you believe in, like wants me to do this group so that I can help these women. And it's not about me. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
my business. It's not about making money. It's not about getting the right number in. It's about who am I supposed to be helping and impacting in their
Yeah.
life. And once I shifted to that place of love and service, then all of the fear went away. And it was like, okay, now I'm going to go out. And she even told me, okay, picture a number of people you want in your group. And I pictured it and I was like, that seems so unrealistic at this point because I only have a few more days of my launch. But I went and
Mm-hmm.
did it from a place of love and service and was like, there's people out there who are struggling, who are feeling stuck and depressed or anxious or like lost, and they need my help. And God wants me to help them. So I need to go out there and find them. And so
Yeah.
it just took away all the fear and all the fear of rejection. A lot of people rejected me, and I was like, okay, that's fine. It wasn't for them. And they're not rejecting me. It's just
Mm-hmm.
because this group is not it's not the right time for them, or they're not in a place where they need this right now, and somebody else does. I'm going to go find them. And that really being in a place of love and service and alignment and trust, all of that helps me to deal with unexpected situations, to deal with the rejection that's automatically going to come, right? And reframing failure like, I could have given up at any point, but I didn't. I kept going. And at the very end, I added like um, 7 more people within 2 days after only having like
Love
one
it.
person for a couple weeks, and then a second person joined in. And then after that, coaching call just exploded, and I was like, these are the people I'm supposed to be helping. So it was a really
Yeah.
cool experience to see that when you're operating in a place of alignment, things will things will fall into place.
I love that. And, just sharing with myself as well, when I thought about doing this podcast, a lot of scary stuff kept coming up for me. There were a lot of fears. And I had a plan. I wanted to launch on International Women's Day, but again, source, love, universe, however you resonate, had a different plan for me, and I couldn't think of anything better. And I feel like the timing feels right for me now as well. So I think when you do come from a place of love and service, as you beautifully put, and you know why you've got the reason for what you're doing, you have a clear intention that's not driven by all these externalities, it's going to be successful.
Yes.
And success is defined in different ways, but more so it's going to reach the people who need it at that point in time. And that's something Sarah and I have probably learned, and we're both similar in that way of thinking, is that whatever we're doing it from our heart, we're doing it because we want to, and it's something that also brings us happiness too. So, these are the moments where when you're doing something that makes you happy, you're going to go and do the extra work for it. It's a public holiday in Australia, but I'm more than happy. And it's, Saturday evening for yourself, Sarah. But these are just examples that I wanted to share with our listeners that, yes, you are going to have to step out your comfort zone. Yes, there are going to be moments where you're going to feel like, oh, this is too hard. Why am I doing this? Should I give up? But as Sarah beautifully put, she knows why she wanted to do what she was doing, and she attracted the right clients. So you can actually lean into that in any part of your life, whatever change you want to make. And it may not be relating to a business change that you want to have, or launching a business, unless that's something you're passionate about, then great, go for it. But if there's a change you want to create in your life, I'm sure those are the reasons why you're getting these clients coming to you, Sarah. They want to create a different life and a different experience for themselves. So, naturally, coaching gives you that accountability and gives you a little bit of that nudge. Because, yeah, doing things on our own is great, but we are people. We love connection, we love the human interaction, and yeah, sometimes knowing that someone has your back goes a long way, because it's really hard on our own sometimes. And
Absolutely.
that's, I think, the biggest benefit of this group coaching setup that you've established.
There's the accountability. I think the accountability is huge, is to show
Yeah,
up. And then also the connection, right? Just that feeling
yeah,
seen and understood. And what's interesting in my group is that everybody's really different, different ages, different stages of life, different goals of what they're looking for from the group.
hmm,
But there is a universal thread between everyone too. Is like the struggle. Everyone's struggling through something. Everybody, everyone who's listening to this podcast is struggling with something. And we're all here because we want to grow. Like they wouldn't be listening to this podcast. You wouldn't be here doing this podcast. I wouldn't be trying to coach if I
yeah,
wasn't trying to grow, right? So everyone in
yeah.
my group is trying to grow. So the struggle connects us, the growth, the desire to growth connects us, and then the acceptance and love that we have for each other, for where we're at in our journey. That's going to connect us too, right? And so um, it's really cool. It's We're just in the beginning stages of the group, but I'm really excited to see how those connections transform, over the 12 weeks.
And will you be running these group coaching programs, frequently? Because I know that you've
Yes,
already started this
yes. This round,
intake.
yeah, this round already started. I'm hoping to run another one after this one is done. And I
Hmm.
may even create some new groups based on different needs and things that people want, like some common threads. And so one of them I'm thinking about is maybe like an abundance mindset type group where we've already have some people in my current group who are like struggling with that. I'm like, I could do a whole 12-week program just on this one topic. So that's
Yeah,
another
nice.
idea too. But definitely this group will run again in the future. And I think it's so cool. Like, I hope it really builds relationships because I think about you and I. We met 2.5 years ago. You're in Australia. I'm in the US. Like you said,
Yeah,
we've never met in person. And here we are 2.5 years later recording a podcast together because of this one group that connected us. And so
yeah.
that's the power of being in a group and building this network of women who are trying to grow, right?
Nice. So, as I said earlier, we will drop Sarah's details in the notes as well. And if you are keen for joining her future group coaching, send her a DM. I'm sure she'd like to connect with you as well and grow that space for herself and for you as well, and help you get rid of whatever it is in your life that you're feeling stuck with. Because, as Sarah beautifully put, we're all struggling in one way or another, and it may not be obvious on the outside because we have a persona, or we put on a bit of a face because we want the outer world to think that everything's okay. And not to say that it's not okay, there are amazing moments in everyone's life as well, but we're all doing the best that we can, for sure. And the struggles are real. So, just one thing that I want to add from there, as a fellow coach myself, again, I have a coach and I love having a coach because for me, I work full time, and having a coach helps me just focus on myself a little bit and focus on whatever it is that I need to shift in my life, in my own personal development and growth. So, whether you want one-on-one coaching, I know Sarah offers a bit of that too, or group coaching, DM her, get in contact with her. Just now, moving a little bit away from the coaching, Sarah, I wanted to get a little bit of an understanding of how you deal with mum guilt. You spoke about it briefly, but what are the internal chatters that may come up for you, and how do you deal with those chatters? Because I know a lot of the women that will be listening to this, again, are at different stages in their life, are going through different things in their life as well. But that internal dialogue that, sometimes can be a little bit negative, but can also be very loud. So, how do you deal with that consistent noise in your head, that may be stopping you in some way or another?
Absolutely. You are right. There is a consistent, constant chatter of like the negative thoughts, right? The worry, the guilt, and having 5 kids and just balancing attention for all of them is hard enough as it is. Um, One thing that helps me, and I actually, this is funny because one of my first failed entrepreneurial things was a 21-day challenge for entrepreneur mothers to overcome mom guilt.
Okay,
And I was
nice.
actually trying to coach on this. This was before I even met you, before I joined that group. It was another course I was in. And
Yeah,
one of the things that helps me is, our brains are wired to focus on the negative. Like that is, as you know, as an animal species, that's how we survive, is you focus on the negative and the fear because then you protect yourself from the dangers in the future, right? And so we have to be make a conscious effort to notice the good and the positive and shift that energy, right? And so one thing that would help me is if at the end of the day I'm feeling like, oh, I didn't do enough for my kids, I'm not doing enough in my homeschooling, I'm not doing enough as a mom, um, I would lie in bed and I would go into my phone notes and I would just list everything I had done that day that was being a good mom or for my kids. And then I realized, oh, I actually read a book to this child. And when this child was crying, I paused and I gave her a hug. And then I made this meal. And then, we went on a walk together and did this. And even though it was like pockets of things, while I was doing all this other stuff, I was like, oh, I've had a lot of positive interactions with my kids today. And I need to maybe be more gentle on myself. And I think that a lot of moms are probably doing that. They're focusing on the one time where they got upset or were impatient, and they're not remembering all those times when you were loving and comforting or nurturing, right? And so focusing, being intentional about focusing on your wins. And this is good for entrepreneurs too, because as an entrepreneur, I mean, you mentioned to me, sometimes, um, because you're in corporate, you have less time to work on the things you want to in your business and you get down on yourself. What if you were to make a list of all of the things
yeah,
that you've done in the past month for your business and you'll be like, holy crap, like I'm actually killing it on top of a full-time corporate job, right? Like, give yourself
Yeah.
some praise. So taking time to notice what you're doing right instead of focusing on the negative. And then again, like I said, having the bigger picture of why I'm doing this, knowing your why. You said that earlier.
Mhm.
Knowing your
Yeah.
why. Why am I doing this? It's because I want financial freedom and I want time freedom. Because I used to go to a 9 to 5 full time for the first couple of years of my two children's oldest, for my two oldest, for their lives. And while I was pregnant with my third, I was clocking in at a 9 to 5 and I couldn't leave and I was exhausted and pregnant and I was missing out on watching them grow up. And I wanted to do a business on my own terms where I could create my own schedule and take time off when I want to. And the goal is eventually to make enough money to live comfortably, to provide for their needs, right? And to have my husband be home too every day so that we can have those family experiences. Like, that's our why. We want time freedom and we want location freedom to travel and see family, and we want financial freedom to have experiences together. And so that means I've got to grind a little to do this business, but I'm actually a lot more present now than I would be if I were working at a 9 to 5 where they would hardly see me, right? So
Mm.
keeping that in perspective, what is the bigger picture, and also the things that I'm learning on this entrepreneurial journey is absolutely going to happen. It's the way I'm changing my thoughts from how I used to think 5 years ago when I used to be stuck, when I didn't have any dreams, when I was filled with limiting beliefs. Like, I would have carried on all of that negative thinking to a future generation, and they would have had a disadvantage of life. But because I'm doing all of this personal development and this growth, and I'm doing the work to put myself out there, they're seeing that and they think that's normal. And so now I
Mhm.
see that in my two oldest, they're very entrepreneurial minded. They have big dreams. They think anything's possible. And I love that. Like, keep that alive,
Yeah.
right? So that's another benefit as well that helps me to let go of that mom guilt. Yeah.
I love seeing, even with your kids, as you just briefly shared, was it something they were selling at the front of your house a little while ago? And, it's just cool, right? Because you can make money at any stage of life, and even if that just buys them all a little chocolate each or whatever they like, but it's like they're also seeing the hard work that you're putting in. But it doesn't always need to be doesn't need to always feel hard. Rather, it can be because you want the life that you want to have, and as you rightfully said, you're spending quality time with them rather than being in that 9 to 5 job thinking, I wish I was doing something else. And not that there's anything wrong in being in corporate. I know a lot of people enjoy that, but I think Sarah and I have a similar mindset where we want to be leading lives that are happy and healthy and like time present. Whatever we're doing, we're there, we're enjoying it, we're making the most of it. And when we do have those moments of up and down that are natural and that are going to occur, we have the tools to actually navigate through them as well, and we can teach and share those tools with the people in our lives and others who follow us on social media or listen to this podcast, because I think everyone may not want to have a business, and that's totally fine, but the tools that Sarah just shared are things that can apply to all of us. And I love, even just as a mum, writing down all the things that you've done for that day. If you're not a mum, you're, whether you're single or, you're in a relationship, it still applies to you as well. And it's something that, I'm definitely going to take away and do for myself, is like, what are the things that I've done today? Focus on the small wins rather than the things that I haven't achieved, because definitely when you become your own cheerleader and you're really focusing on the things that you are doing, it lifts you up and it keeps you going. And even through those tough moments, the resilience really kicks in. So, Sarah, is there any moment or a stage in your life where resilience has been a part of it? Because I feel like you're one of those people that will keep going. As you said, the first business that you wanted to launch for mums didn't necessarily go the way that you planned, but it doesn't look like you're giving up, and you don't seem to be giving up anytime soon either.
Yeah, resilience. That's how I've just been operating for the past several years. Is like that living on a prayer,
Yeah,
living on a
love
dream,
it.
hoping it all works out. Since I started this personal development journey, I wasn't really sure where it was going. I just knew, okay, I want to try these new things, and I'm taking these courses. And so I tried that business, and it didn't really work out, but I learned a lot of skills from it, and I learned how to do email campaigns, and I learned how to do invoicing online, and how to create sales pages. And so I took those skills with me. That really helped me when I launched my group, because it was a lot less overwhelming. So even though that was
Mhm.
3 years ago, it's like, oh, I've done this before, and I actually have my old template from the sales page I did 3 years ago. Let me just go get some ideas from that and plug it in, and it was a lot easier now. And I've already have the invoicing set
Mhm.
up and things like that. And also just knowing that it's okay to pivot. Like everything that we try, we learn from, and you're not gonna know what you're supposed to be doing if you just sit there thinking about it and planning and thinking about it. Like clarity comes from taking action. And so,
Yeah.
yes, I tried that. It didn't work. Now I know that's not quite what I'm supposed to be doing. Let me try something else. And then I took Jenny's course with you. That's where I
Yeah.
created this coaching business. And I was like, oh, one-on-one coaching, I can do that. I know that because I'm coming from a therapy background where I'm working with people
Mhm.
one-on-one. And so that was a pivot I made. And I actually niched in creativity coaching back then, because as a musician and creative, I do love working with creatives. Um, that kind of just guided me there. And then, like, I've pivoted again, like you said, now I'm just working with women who are feeling stuck and wanting more in life and wanting clarity, right, and direction. But yeah, the resiliency piece is just knowing that the story's not over yet, right? And all of this is gathering
Yeah.
information, and everything that you do is leading you closer to that, to the next thing and the next thing. And
Yeah.
it's like, stay curious. I think that's what helps with resilience. You stay curious, because I never know
Mhm.
what's coming next, and there is no end goal. There is no, like, honestly, I don't have a 5 year plan, because I'm like, whatever God has planned for me is more interesting than what I could make up for myself. And as I take one step and the next step, then I'm like, oh, maybe I could do this. I never thought about doing this,
Mhm.
right? And things kind of unfold as you start taking action and moving in a direction.
Love that. And just on that note, I want to talk briefly about your music. So, if you can think about whether it was the first song that you wrote or something that you've written recently, what are maybe some of the key lyrics that any woman listening to your music could relate to and that you feel will just uplift her a little bit?
Well, I do have a song that kind of talks about, okay, this came up because we're talking about resiliency. And
Mm-hmm.
in the second verse, it says, everybody has their thoughts on what is good and what is right. The contradictions can confuse if you're not led by the light. And I think that means, like, we all are on a different journey. And for those of us that are trying to do things a little bit differently, not everyone's going to understand. And it can be scary, and people are going to tell you you're wrong, but you have to have that light within you yourself, that intuition, that knowing, and you have to trust it. And then the next part of the lyrics are, um, give up, give up, says the critic in my mind. Too hard, too hard. But if I don't seek, I'll never find. And so we all have that inner critic, and that saying, is this too hard? I want to give up. Like, what am I doing? And that's how I felt about launching this group. And then, but if you don't try, you're never going to know what's out there for you. You never know what's more. Whatever you feel like, that longing in your heart, or whenever you feel that jealousy when you see someone on social media doing something, that's telling you that you have a desire for something more. And if you never try to pursue it, you're always going to wonder, what if, right? Like, if you don't seek, you'll never find it. So just go out there and try and fail and go through the hard, because either way, life is hard. Life is hard when you're trying to do nothing, because life keeps
Mm-hmm.
lifing, challenges come up, right? And life is hard when you're trying to chase your dreams. Either way, it's hard. So you might as well do something that's purposeful, right? And fulfilling.
Thank you for sharing. What's the name of that song? Is
It's
that
called
available
To the
on?
Mountain.
Okay.
And my artist name is Queen Ra, Queen Rah. Yeah.
I just want to finish the podcast on a note of appreciation. As I said earlier at the start, we don't talk all the time, but when we do talk, it's always a nice conversation. We always have a bit of a laugh and we get each other. You know, we've been there for each other in whatever way we can. And these are the kind of friendships that really empower me. So I appreciate you, you know, hanging out with me whenever we can from across the ocean. But the biggest thing is that every time we chat, I always feel empowered, and I know that if I ever need a bit of support, I can reach out to you and say, hey Sarah, I'm stuck with this, what are you doing with it, you know, from your business perspective or just in life, and you're always willing to help and share, you know, the knowledge that you have. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you spending time with me and recording this podcast, and also sharing really openly. If there was just one key takeaway that you wanted to leave for our listeners today, what would that be?
It will, wherever you're at in your journey of life right now, whether it is entrepreneurship or it's personal development, or maybe you feel like you're in the lowest, worst place of your life right now, I want everyone to know that there's always hope for change. Always hope for change. Um, and that it can get better, and it will if you just keep going and you keep showing up and you keep following those intuitive nudges to guide you to where you're supposed to be going.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners for being on the podcast, for connecting. As I said, Sarah's details will be in the notes. You can connect with her on Instagram and reach out if you want to do her group coaching or listen to her music. I hope this podcast episode has inspired you to follow your heart, live with hope, and also believe in yourself just a little bit more.